This math tutorial is about creating bar models for fraction word problems. I'm going to go out on a limb here because on this one I actually have to draw pictures and I have to make bars, but I'm going to do my best and show you the way I teach the kids in class so that they can actually look at this and help them with these word problems, because right now on tests they're getting the basic problems right, but then when it comes to the word problems they have a little more difficulty. Okay, let's look at problem number 1. First, we're going to read the question. Grace thought that a plane journey would take 7/10 of an hour, but the actual journey took 1/5 of an hour longer. How long did the actual journey take? One of the things that kids often do is forget what the question is. So what I like to do right in the beginning is start to form my answer. It says, how long did the actual journey take? So I know when I write my answer, I'm going to write the actual journey took, and then I'm going to put a line. That's where I'm going to put my answer, and I'm going to put an H for hours, and then a period. That's going to be my answer system. I always like to start off with, writing out, setting up the answer, not writing it out, but setting up the answer for the end. Okay, now I'm going to go back and look at the problem again. Grace thought that a plane journey would take 7/10 of an hour, but the actual journey took 1/5 of an hour longer. So one strategy that I always try to use with the kids that helps with common sense is to plug in easier numbers. So for example, let's say this one was 10 hours and this one was 5 hours, just for an example. And Grace thought that her plane journey was going to take 10 hours, but it actually took 5 hours longer. So she was right, it did take 10 hours, but it took 5 hours longer. So to figure out how long her journey took, you would take the 10 she thought plus the 5 extra that it took, and you'd add them together and you get 15. That kind of helps you know that in this problem she thinks 7/10, but it's actually 1/5 longer. You got to add these two together. So I'm going to start creating my bars, and the first bar is going to be 7/10. The way I create bars, I start off with this line and this top line, and I'm going to make them as straight as I can. Okay, then I need 10 sections. This leaves me open. I can put as many as I want, or I can erase. It's just like the kids can do on their paper. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I tried to space them out as best I could. You notice that I went a little bit too long, so I'm going to erase this little piece right here. Okay, I'll make sure this corner is closed. Now I'm going to come across. Now I take the time to show me doing this because this is exactly what the kids have to do also on their paper. So if I can do it on an inner right pad, the kids can do it on a paper, definitely. Okay, now I'm just going to make sure my corners are all colored in because I don't want to fill in the whole page. Now this one has to represent 7/10. So I'm going to get my fill tool. I'm going to do 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10. Okay, now I have 7/10 colored in. Okay, now Grace thought that a plane journey would take 7/10 of an hour. I have 7/10 here, but the actual journey took 1/5 longer. Well, the thing about bar modeling is, if you're going to compare 7/10 and 1/5, you can't compare fractions that have different denominators. So in bar modeling, you have to have units that are exactly the same size. So I'm going to make this the same size, but this one has to show 1/5. So this time, I'm going to actually, this one's 10, so this 5 is going to be every other one on the 10. I can just line them up. 2, 3, 4, and that gives me 5 altogether. Now I'm going to close it up. I know that's not perfectly straight, but that's going to be good enough. I can get rid of that a little bit, erase that a little bit. If I do it on paper, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so it'd be much neater, but it's a little harder on this inner right pad. Okay, on this one, we have to color in 1/5. So there's the 1/5. Okay, now, see if this makes sense. If we were going to add these two fractions, we would say 7/10 plus 1/5, and we would have to change them to have the same denominators. Well, if you do your 5s and your 10s, the multiples of your 5s and your 10s, you'll see that 10 is the common denominator. So this one has to be in 10 sections also. But I don't want to lose my fifths, so I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to make 10 sections. See, coming down from this line, I'll make this in 10 sections also. Okay. Okay, so now I see I colored in 1/5 originally because the solid line shows you 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. That's 5/5 altogether. But once I put it in 10 sections, I see that 1/5 is actually 2/10. 2/10 and 1/5 are equivalent. They're worth the same exact amount. So I have this little tricky tool right here. I can take a picture of these 2/10. Okay, and I can grab them and put them over here. Now, what you can see is you had 7/10, and then this one was 2/10. If you take those 2/10 and you move those 2/10 up to here, that gives you 9/10. Okay, so she thought it was going to take 7/10 of an hour, but it took 1/5 longer. 1/5 is 2/10, so 7/10 plus 2/10 is going to give us 9/10. And this problem shows us right here that it's 9/10. So we're going to put 9/10 right here. Okay, now we're always going to look and see, can 9/10 be reduced? Okay, so 1, 3, and 9, those are the factors. 1, 2, 5, and 10. The only thing they have in common is 1, so now I know 9/10 is in its simplest form, so my answer is 9/10. Okay, let's do another one. On this problem, on number 2, we have Timothy took 2/3 of an hour to paint a portrait. This was 1/3 of an hour shorter than the time he took to paint scenery. How long did he take to paint scenery? Okay, so once again, if you use common sense, you say, let's say this was 3 hours, this was 3, and this was 2. You know, just write them there so we don't forget. This was 3, this was 2. Timothy took 3 hours to paint a portrait. This was 2 hours shorter than the time he took to paint the scenery. So 3 was 2 hours shorter. So to paint the scenery actually took him 2 hours longer. So it will be 3 plus 2, which is 5. So that lets us know that we're going to add these together, okay? Let me finish reading the problem. Timothy took 2/3 of an hour to paint a portrait. This was 1/3 of an hour shorter than the time he took to paint the scenery. How long did he take to paint the scenery? Okay, so now I'm going to start my answer. How long did he take to paint the scenery? Timothy took of an hour to paint the scenery. Okay, I'm going to come back at the end and I'm going to fill my answer in right here. Okay, now let me go back and look at the problem. I'm going to erase this, get this out of my way. Timothy took 2/3 of an hour to paint a portrait. This was 1/3 of an hour shorter than the time he took to paint the scenery. So my first bar I'm going to set up, I'm going to represent 2/3. Once again, I'm going to leave it open like this. It's almost like I'm drawing an old-fashioned comb. Not that I would need one because I don't have any hair, as the kids would tell you, but it's almost like I'm making a comb, and I'm going to fill in the teeth for the comb. I have to have 3 sections, so I have 1 section, 2 sections. I'm going to try to make them as even as possible. 3 sections. I need my eraser. Erase this little piece right here, and then I'm going to close my 3 sections in. Alright, now like I told you before, we have 3 sections, right? So it's 2/3. We're going to color in 2 out of the 3. Now on the next one, we have to add 1/3 to it. Actually, that problem is wrong. The way it was on the test, it was 1/2. So this will make it harder. Let's change this one to 1/2. and make it 2/3 plus 1/2. Remember what I told you before is that when we're doing bar models, we want to have units that are the same size. So we're going to make the bar the same size even though it's going to represent 1/2. Okay, now I'm going to divide it in half, and I'm going to color in 1/2 of it because it took 1/2 longer. Okay, now just like I did before, my denominators are 3 and 2. 3, 6, 2, 4, 6. So now I know my common denominator is 6. So I need to make these into 6 sections. Okay, so this one's already in 3, so if I divide each one in half, that'll give me 6. There's 2, 4, there's 6 sections. Okay, now in this one, it's only 2 sections, so if I look at the lines here, I'll know, okay, I need 3 sections on this side, and I need 3 sections on this side. Okay, now if I take these 3 and I add these 3, let's grab these 3 and I pull them over here. Oh, you see what happened? We pulled them over here. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections colored in, and there's only 6 sections here, so it's 7/6. So altogether we have 7/6, because we would have taken 2 of these, and one of them, this one right here, would have been left over down here. So we would have had one hole colored in, this whole bar, plus 1/6 of another bar. So, you know, and the other way I taught the kids to do it is if they go 7/6 means 7 divided by 6. So you put the 7 inside the bracket, the 6 here. Goes 1 times 6, 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. So the answer is 1 1/6. Which we can also see here, because one hole is colored in yellow, and 1/6 of the remaining one is left over. So we have 1 hole and 1/6. And that's our answer. Okay, this is going to be the only 2 problems that I go over for today for creating bar models with fractions. And I wanted to do these 2 specific ones because these are 2 of the word problems that were on the math test that we took on Monday. And I think it's important for the kids to see those word problems could have been solved with bar models. And we do practice these bar models every day in the morning. Like I said in my email, it's really important that the kids get here on time in the morning because part of our morning work is going over bar models. And bar models are not the way you have to do every math problem. Every math problem, word problem, does not have to be done with bar models, but bar models is really a good strategy to use to solve word problems. It's definitely a good strategy, and the better they are at solving bar models, the better understanding they're going to have of word problems in general. Okay, so we're going to teach them bar models, but at the same time, they could have definitely taken this problem. They could have done it the old-fashioned way and gone 2/3 plus 1/2, change the denominators just like I teach them every day in class, change them to 6, and then added them up, and they still would have got 7/6. But just want to remind you guys that bar models is a great strategy that Singapore uses, and it's good for them to be here on school on time, and we're going to practice it every day, and they're going to get better and better at it as long as they keep trying. It can get frustrating at times because it gets kind of difficult, but as long as they keep trying, and you know, they're not always going to get it right, but even if they watch me when I go over it and they copy down what I do, that's what learning is all about. They'll definitely learn.